now to the fighting between Russia and Georgia over the Georgian breakaway region of South Ossetia. President Bush has told Russian leaders that military action against Georgia is unacceptable. Vice President Cheney said Russia's invasion must not go unanswered. Alex Rossi of Sky News has the latest developments from Georgia. Alex, you're in Gori, near the border with South Ossetia. What is the situation there now?
Well, there are a few people still here in Gori, but most of the people have already left, fleeing the fighting. There are some very, very frightened people here, and as is usually the case in conflict zones, the people that remain are mostly the elderly, the people who are most vulnerable. Now, this city, we're told by residents, took another hit this morning. Over there's a military installation. Now, that was whacked again by Russian fighter jets, and of course the bomb blasts again went into civilian areas, and we're told that there were a number of casualties. But we think that the fighting has died down now, as the latest news this morning is that Dmitry Medvedev, the Russian president, says that Russia has nearly completed its military targets.
As best as you've been able to determine, are Georgian forces staying to fight, or are they fleeing?
No, I think the Georgian forces have pretty much withdrawn out of South Ossetia. They're certainly out of Skinvali, the regional capital. They are withdrawn. They are about 2 kilometers from where I am. There are tank positions, artillery fairly well dug in, but they're certainly not advancing forwards to what now is a massive Russian military machine. Thousands of Russian troops and a great deal of military hardware is now firmly in control of South Ossetia. And I suppose it's now going to be very difficult for President Mikhail Saakashvili to ever get that territory back. Vladimir Putin himself, the Russian Prime Minister, has said that he thinks South Ossetia will never be reintegrated into Georgia.
Alex Rossi of Sky News, thank you so much. And joining us is Michael O'Hanlon, a senior fellow on foreign policy at the Brookings Institution. Michael, good to see you.
Hi, Harry.
So interesting. This section of Georgia butts up against Russia, primarily ethnically Russian, sort of not really ever really part of Georgia, kind of almost a netherworld. Saakashvili takes over the country a couple of years ago and says, I'm going to bring this country together and bring these Ossetians into the fold in Georgia. They take military action against the rebels there a couple of days ago, and then what happens?
Well, Harry, you're right about all that context. And in addition, of course, Russia sees this opportunity as sort of similar to what we did with Kosovo. As you remember, Kosovo is a place where the Western world went in and defended a population that was being oppressed by Serbs who were good Russian friends. And then this year, we essentially tolerated or condoned the idea of Kosovo declaring independence. And this is the last straw for Russia in terms of seeing NATO come eastward. I think they also are tired of the talk of Georgia joining NATO, which is the next intended step in the alliance. And basically, Putin said, this is an opportunity for me to reassert Russia, to control these two enclaves, and probably to ultimately split them off from Georgia. The worry now, as you know, is that he may go even beyond that. And there's talk of whether Russia wants to make sure that the Georgian president is pushed out of office or otherwise fundamentally altered in his foreign policy.
Because there's been bombing in Georgia itself, in Gori, and outside of Tbilisi. Now, Georgia has as many as 2,000 soldiers on duty in Iraq right now, being a very good friend to the United States. Some of those Georgian soldiers, as they were being driven out of South Ossetia over the last couple of days, were saying, where is the United States?
Right. Well, you know, Harry, military intervention here is unthinkable. Russia's a nuclear weapons state. They're very close to this region. Of course, we're very far away. Georgia is not now a member of NATO, so any talk of a formal security guarantee is not there anyway. It's going to be very interesting to see how hard we push to back up Vice President Cheney's words that this will not go unanswered, because I believe it will go unanswered militarily. But we still have a lot of economic and diplomatic steps, including perhaps John McCain's idea of trying to kick Russia out of the G8. Or even now there's some talk of boycotting the Olympics in Russia in a few years' time, and announcing that right now. So there are a number of things. Economic sanctions are very tough because Europe depends so much on Russian gas, but we'll see what happens.
All right. Michael O'Hanlon, as always, a pleasure. Thank you very much.